It is Thursday, December 4th, and you're watching the Sick Podcast. Trust the process. For those of you who have been watching religiously, you would know that our main focus on this show is about building winning teams. We're not looking at, the most talented teams, the team is going to score the most goals. We're looking at teams that are going to win. And we're going to go back in time a little bit. We're going to look at teams that maybe should have won, but didn't, and why that is. We're also going to trace a parallel to today's teams who are, looking to win in the near future. Later on, Snake is going to talk about more Michigan players that caught his attention when he went to see them playing Harvard. Afterwards, we're going to get to Snake's hot take, of course, and got a few mailbag questions to get to. It's going to be a fun show, and it all starts right here, right now.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Trust the process. The sickest NHL prospect podcast with Snake and Shayne.
With the 5th overall selection in the 2024 NHL Draft, the Montreal Canadiens are proud to select Ivan Demidov.
It's gonna be sick.
All right, producer Shane here, joined as always by my counterpart, Simon the Snake Boisvert. Snake, how are you feeling today?
I'm doing fine. How about you, Shane?
Excellent. I'm doing great. Very excited for this show. Very excited to talk to you again. I always look forward to these, and I hope that you all tuning in are as well. We appreciate the support, the love, and the comments. The comments have been great, the great questions, and we're going to get to 3 of them a little later on in the show. We can't limit ourselves to just one, Snake. The questions are too good. So you know what? It's our show. We make the rules. We chose 3 today. But for now, the main topic of today, and it's one that you brought to my attention, which I thought was really good, and it's fitting because the Winnipeg Jets were in town in Montreal yesterday. Well, we'll use them as the first example here. Back in 2015, the Hockey News said that the Winnipeg Jets would win a Stanley Cup by 2019. Now, obviously, it's 2025, and we know that did not, in fact, happen. But the Winnipeg Jets, they at some point they were a clear favorite. That they had the pieces in place to go make that run and go far. But it didn't happen, Snake. So, that's one of the examples we're going to use. There's a few more, but let's key in on them first. Why did it not work?
Yeah, as a preamble, I can say that, every year we always look for rebuilding teams that have a chance to win the cup down the road. And right now, we've been focusing on the Sharks, the Habs, the Ducks, the Hawks, even the Mammoth.
Yep.
And we're thinking, okay, who's going to win the cup in 2030? And we tend to focus on teams that have a great young core. And that was exactly the case with the Winnipeg Jets, who on top of it had some veterans at the time who were not that old. So just to run down a little bit what they had at the time, they had veterans, like Blake Wheeler, Brian Little, who were established players and who in 2019 were seen as probably still very valuable to the team. Mm-hmm. Little got hurt, but Wheeler was very good. And they also had guys like Andrew Ladd, Dustin Byfuglien, and the goalies at the time, Andrei Pavelec and Michael Hutchinson, were coming off a great season, both of them, in 2015. So the Hockey News also considered what was coming up. They had a young Mark Scheifele, a young Adam Lowry, Evander Kane was 24, Jacob Trouba was 21, Tyler Myers was 25, and in the pipeline, they had Connor Hellebuck, Nick Ehlers, Kyle Connor, Jack Roslovic, and Josh Morrissey.
Okay.
That's
pretty good.
Yeah. And then in 2016, they got lucky because they didn't have a very good season, but they won the second pick in the lottery, and they got Patrick Laine, who who at the time was seen as, a perennial 40-goal scorer.
Yeah, franchise guy.
Yeah. So we're thinking, okay, now what happened? So over the years, in 2017, the Jets rebounded a little bit with 87 points. In 2018, they got 114 points, 52 wins. So I think the Hockey News people were still pretty comfortable with their prediction.
Yeah.
And they reached the conference finals, by the way, which is often the prelude to winning the Stanley Cup.
Mm-hmm.
You go very far, you make a Final Four, and then a year after, boom, you explode. Well, in 2019, they regressed a little bit. They had 99 points, which was supposed to be their year, and they were eliminated in the first round. So right away, 4 years later, it didn't happen, but they still had a good team. Then there were 2 COVID years, 2020 and 2021. In 2020, they got eliminated right away. And in 2021, we all remember they were eliminated by the Habs in the second round.
Yeah.
I think it was 4-0.
Tyler
It wasn't even
Toffoli.
a series. Yeah. Tyler Toffoli. Yeah. 2022, they missed the playoffs. So, okay. Now, before I move on to what happened next, I want to look at, of all the players that they named in 2015, who was still there in 2018, 2019, which was supposed to be their year? Well, Blake Wheeler had 91 points. Mark Scheifele had 84 points. Jacob Trouba, 50. Brian Little, 41. And the new guys, Connor Hellebuck had a 913 save percentage. Kyle Connor had 66 points. Liney had 50 points. He had regressed a little bit. Nick Ehlers had 37 points, but he was just starting. Morrissey had 31 points. So they still had kept the guys that were mentioned in 2015 as the core. They didn't make any major trades. The only acquisition they did was Brendan Tanev, basically, as an NCAA free agent. So, and they had guys, like one that I forgot to mention, Andrew Cup was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And guys like Myers, Bufflin were still around. They had a young Ben Sherratt also at the time, who was a good third pairing defensive defenseman.
Yeah.
And at the trade deadline in 2019, they added Kevin Hayes, who was supposed to bring grit to all this. They also had Brendan Lemieux, another gritty player at the time. So they really stuck to the plan. That's my point, because sometimes these things derail because the GM takes shortcuts. He's not patient enough with young players. He's going for the kill, with the big free agent. Yeah. Obviously, Winnipeg is not a big free agent destination, so it was probably by default that Kevin Cheveldayoff couldn't do this. But nevertheless, he stuck to the plan. And very often on that show, we talk about sticking to the plan. And it didn't work, honestly. Yeah, it didn't work. So getting back to 2023, eliminated in the first round, but still got 95 points. 2024, 110 points. They get eliminated in the first round. Last year, they won the President's Trophy.
Mm-hmm.
But they were gone by the second round.
They barely made it through the first. It was a Cole Perfetti, last minute dagger there that got it.
And they had 56 wins.
Yeah.
Now this year, I've been watching them a few games, and we saw it last night. It's a one-line team.
Yeah.
Connor, Velarde, and Scheifele. They don't really have a second line. I find they have two number 3 lines and a fourth line. Because all these guys, Nemestikov, and they're okay, but their point production is not great. And they're not really dangerous. I mean, right. I don't know why, but I was watching the game last night. I never felt the Jets had a chance to win, honestly.
That's fair. Yeah.
Sometimes you watch a game and you feel, okay, like against Ottawa the other night. You kind of knew the Habs wouldn't come back, unless they had a fluky goal or something. Yeah. Because Ottawa was like on their A game on Tuesday. But you're watching the Jets, and aside from that first line and Josh Morrissey, you're thinking, okay, this is not a dangerous group of forwards. So what's left from those teams, the team from 10 years ago and the prospect list and everything? Well, not many players are left. There's Scheifele, there's Connor, there's Morrissey, Lowry, and Hellbuck. It's a nice little core, but that's what's left of what made the Hockey News think that the Jets could be a dominant team. So what's the lesson to learn from all this is that although you stick to the plan, it might not work. Because very often, it's easy for me to just blame the GM for, he didn't stick to the plan. And very often, this is what happens. A lot of teams that I liked over the past, young teams, they derailed. And I'm like, the GM, he made a stupid signing. Shovel day off, ran the ship quite well.
Did good, yeah.
But, he even did a good trade, getting Velarde. That was a good trade. Yeah, from LA. But that's what it is. So that's a lesson to learn. So one of the teams we mentioned, or more than one of the teams we mentioned as the rebuilders, will probably end up being like the Jets.
Yeah.
And maybe one of them or two of them will win the Stanley Cup. But I'm very, very curious to see how the Sharks, the Ducks, the Habs, the Hawks will stick to the plan. So far, they have. I mean, the Ducks have made some acquisitions, but I think the Ducks are a little bit ahead of time. So they feel like, they had to get a Kreider, a Trouba, a Ryan Poehling, to add more grit. But
they never mortgage the future in doing so.
Never.
So that's good.
Short-term contracts. I mean, if they don't like Trouba, he's gone at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Kreider has 1 year left after this year. They never mortgage the future. Chicago is just like building. I mean, they're just waiting for the kids because literally they have these very, very below average forwards, and they're doing well this year, I would say. The Habs never mortgaged the future in a deal. They never made a silly July 1st signing since Kent Hughes and Jeff Gordon have arrived. The Sharks are extremely patient. I mean, they keep trading players. I don't know what they're going to do this year because they have shown signs of life. Although last night I watched the first two periods. I mean, it was horrible against the Caps. But that's normal. It's a young team. And so did the Ducks. The Ducks had a terrible game against Utah. They lost 7-0. Yeah. So have GMs learned their lesson that you don't speed up a rebuild? You don't take shortcuts? But it's possible. But nevertheless, there's absolutely no guarantee. It's just fun to try and guess which ones will work, which ones won't. I like the fact that the Hockey News went very bold 10 years ago with that prediction. Yeah. It was like front page of the magazine. I mean, a lot of hockey fans remember this. And Shane, you were mentioning to me, they also talked, and I remember now, they also talk about the Leafs.
In 2018, that's the famous cover that still gets brought up to this day. Plan the parade in big, bold letters on the front cover with Austin Matthews, William Nylander, and Mitchell Marner as the three headliners. And, that's, again, Plan the Parade is about as bold as you're going to get. They said that in 2018. It's 2025, closing in on 2026 here. We know what happened. It's first round exits and maybe a couple of second round exits.
I have to be honest with you. In 2016, when that threesome arrived of Nylander, Marner, and Matthews, I really did think that within the next 7 to 10 years, they would win a cup.
Rightfully so.
I thought they were going to win. I like Morgan Riley too. I felt that the team needed to add more depth and grit and everything. But they had an incredible basis. And these three guys, they hit it off right away. They all came together in the National Hockey League, those three.
Yeah.
I think all three were rookies in 2016. And I was thinking, wow, you have a fantastic basis, guys. Don't waste it. And they did, which contrary to the Winnipeg Jets, they did not stick to the plan. They signed John Tavares. Tavares is a fine player, but $11 million, maybe they were counting on a salary cap going up, and it didn't because of COVID. So, okay, that's not their fault. But nevertheless, it's $11 million to John Tavares at the time, which was kind of overkill. I mean, I might say sometimes you can never have enough good offensive players. Yes, but at $11 million, when you're already paying these guys a lot of money, these other guys a lot of money, that money could have been spent elsewhere. Mm-hmm. And also, Lamoriello, Dubas, they were never able to build a team around these three guys, like a real team.
Yeah.
It was
a collection of players.
It was just a collection of players. They were signing veterans here and there. And it was basically, let's throw this on the wall and hope it sticks. So anything goes. And they never really had great goaltending either.
Right.
It was up and down. They never really had, but although Fred Anderson wasn't bad for the time he was there. But the defense was horrible. They went through coaches, and it was very disappointing. In 9 years, they won 2 series. 2 series didn't even come close. And yeah, they were facing great teams like the Bruins and Tampa, and it kind of sucks that they were facing those teams in the first round. Maybe they could have won another round had they played someone from the other division. But nevertheless, it was a disaster, and that's why at some point the owners pulled the plug on Brendan Shanahan. You know, the famous Shana plan.
Oh,
and Shanahan, I think at first wanted to do like the Jets did and stick to the plan. But what happened is in 2017, the first season of these guys, they made the playoffs, and that raised the bar. Because you see, and I'm going to make a parallel here with the Habs. The Habs made the playoffs last year. Yeah. It wasn't really expected. Let's be honest. More people expect the Habs to make the playoffs this year.
They made it on the last game of the season.
Yeah. But have you noticed that this summer, although Kent Hughes made some moves, none of these moves were made thinking that the Habs were a Stanley Cup contender this year.
That's it.
None of them. They were all made for the future. Dobson was signed forever, and he's a young guy. Budzik is a young guy. So, and they gave away 2 first-round picks, but they got a very young player in return, a 25-year-old who's pretty durable. And they got their first-round pick anyway with Zarovsky, in my opinion. So, okay, maybe they lucked out.
They admitted as much, yeah.
Yeah, maybe they lucked out because no one else took him, but it doesn't matter. They got him. So I think it's a tale of 2 stories, you know. It's a tale of like 2 teams, 2 rebuilding teams who went south. Well, south. I mean, they were good teams, but they didn't win the cup. Didn't even come close. And one of them stuck to the plan. One of them didn't. They both failed.
Yeah, that's it. And now the Toronto Maple Leafs, currently as we speak, are not in a playoff spot.
Yeah,
which is crazy.
That was one of my hot takes early in the season, that they were not going to make the playoffs.
And I don't think they will. Well, again, it's only December, but yeah.
Yeah, it's only December, but I don't see anything on that team. I mean, I mean, whether we like him or not in the playoffs, Marner was a great regular season player.
100 point guy.
They lost him for nothing.
Yeah. Anyway.
So that's why and again, another topic we discussed a couple of weeks ago. That's why the Oilers with McDavid, they have to be careful not to be stuck in the same situation as the Leafs were with Marner. They lost him for practically nothing. I like Nicolas Roy. At least they got something out of Vegas, but they could have lost him for absolutely nothing on July 1st. And so I don't know what's going to happen with the Oilers, but the Oilers could be another one of these Toronto, Winnipeg. It's all Canadian teams. I don't know why, but
I'll bring up an American if you want. This is more of an isolated example here, but the 2022-23 Boston Bruins are still mind-boggling to me because they had quite literally the best regular season in NHL history, and they got bounced in the first round, right? And the Boston Bruins had been able to get a long stretch of successful seasons even after they won the Cup in 2011, right? So it's like they were unstoppable. They always kept getting better and finding ways to be competitive and make the playoffs and go far in the playoffs. They made a few Stanley Cup finals. 2019, they were right there, right?
Yeah.
Game 7 against the Blues. And then finally last year, they kind of take a dip back, but they're right back again this year. Like, they're still good again. The Bruins are...
But they're kind of an anomaly because they're not a trust the process type of team.
They just throw shit and it works.
And you know what? They drafted some very interesting players in the last couple of years. Cooper Simpson, I think. Yeah. Will Zellers that they got in a trade from Colorado. Right. James Higgins, he's not bad. I mean, he's not the superstar that some thought he would be, but I think at number 7, it was an okay pick. Great so he could be a top 6 player. And so it's kind of interesting that they're kind of reloading right now while maintaining, are they in the playoffs this morning? I think if they are, well, they're all bundled up right now in the Eastern Conference. So close. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, you lose 2 games or you win 2 games and you can go from second place to last place, basically. But the Boston Bruins, I've never really discussed them on my shows in the past because it's not the type of roster building that I'm interested in. But I have to give it to them. I mean, they pulled out a few rabbits out of the hat.
So, but let me ask you now, since we're on the topic, right? They have the best regular season ever. Oh, yeah. And they can't get past the first round. Mm-hmm. Now, granted, they faced the Florida Panthers, who went on to the Stanley Cup Finals, lost to the Vegas Golden Knights. But still, like, when you have that kind of regular season and they loaded up a trade deadline, I know they made some big moves and they were mostly healthy in the playoffs. Like, what went wrong there? What were they missing?
I think what happens is, and it's true, it's the best regular season ever. And I have seen the Montreal Canadiens from 1977, who had the best regular season ever. Yeah. I think what happens with the regular season, I find, and we saw it with the Jets last year, but the Jets started off very, very fast last year. They were almost like this year's Colorado.
Right.
Didn't they win 15 games in a row or something? Anyway. I think what happens with the regular season, a lot of things come into play vis-a-vis the playoffs. The schedule, the injuries, travel time, who do you face and when. Whereas during the playoffs, it's one opponent that might not be a good fit for you. Mm-hmm. And there's no they played last night or we played last night. No, you all play on the same nights, obviously. You travel at the same time. And I think that's why the regular season, you have to take it with a grain of salt. I mean, obviously, a team that has 120 points and a team that has 49 points, I mean, no. I'm not, but a team sometimes will have 105 points, and they're prohibitive favorites against a team that had 99 points. Well, what's 6 points? Could be due to injuries, could be due to the schedule. I mean, teams in the West, teams out West, they travel quite a bit. Yeah. Teams around the New York area, they take the bus for a lot of games.
That's true.
I mean, Philadelphia, Islanders, Rangers, and New Jersey, that's 4 teams in the same area. They don't fly very much. They go back home after the game.
Yeah.
Whereas, teams like Seattle or Utah recently, they went on a crazy road trip. They were showing it last night. They had a map, and the commentators from the Mammoth, they were showing what they did. So, and also you can accumulate points in October, November that don't mean anything in April, or sometimes you have a very good sequence at the end, but you run out of steam come playoff time, and because the the cliched, I would say, explanation for the President's Trophy winners to be eliminated very quickly, which happens quite often, is always, oh, they give it all during the regular season.
Yeah.
I think yes, but there's more. There's more things involved, and I think also the opponent in the playoffs is something that you have to consider. Some opponents are not a good fit for you.
They need to go back to the old format. I mean, you'll take a look at this season here, right? Look at the Central Division. Okay, Colorado, Dallas, and Minnesota are all wagons. One of those teams is not going to make it past the first round.
Exactly. One of them is gone.
Horrible.
Yeah. It's pretty bad. And look, I'm old enough to remember the couple of years where it was 1 against 16. Of course, there were less teams in the West. So it was, I think there was only Vancouver and Los Angeles at the time. So obviously, travel constraints were not as present as they are today. I do understand that if you have like a bunch of series like, Detroit, LA, and Montreal, Edmonton, and I don't know, Florida against Seattle in the first round, that would be quite logistically hard, and especially on the players. I know they get private, they get private flights and everything, but it doesn't matter. So, and there's costs, and I understand all this, but ideally 1 against 16 would be fantastic because there would be more of a gap between the best and the worst teams in the playoffs, and also more variety.
Yeah.
How many years ago have we? Well, some people under the age of 40 have never seen the Habs play. I don't know, the Blues in the playoffs.
It's true. Yeah.
Or the Red Wings. Have they played the Red Wings recently? I don't think so.
I mean, the Red Wings have been gone from the playoffs for like 10 years.
True. But the Habs haven't played the Red Wings, I think, in 45 or 50 years.
Yeah, that's true.
And that would, in the old days, that was a big rivalry. And also another thing that you have to consider is that there are 32 teams now, and 16 teams make the playoffs. For a long time, the NHL was criticized for having 16 out of 21 teams make the playoffs. It was kind of ridiculous because you had these terrible teams facing, the Edmonton Oilers, the Philadelphia Flyers, and, it was best of 3, 2 games and out. So I understand, but now there's 32 teams. So the number 16 team is quite decent.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Habs were the 16th team last year. They were not a bad team.
Yeah.
I mean, not many people thought they would beat the Caps, but still, it's not like they lost every game 8-1.
2 of them went to overtime.
Yeah, exactly.
And
but let's compromise, Shane. 1 against 8 in the conference.
That's what I meant. That's what I meant. Like the previous, the West 1 versus 8, East 1 versus 8, and then come back at the end there. That's what I meant, really, and then that's, I think, what they should do. And I know a lot of players have said that that's what they want as well. The current, divisional conference format is caca, and it breeds these kinds of matchups that are just unfortunate. But you know what? It makes the first round pretty exciting. I'll say that the product is fun to watch, but it's unfortunate that it's always really good matchups. Teams.
It's always the same matchups. And I know what the NHL is trying to do.
Edmonton, LA, every year.
There used to be a time in the 80s and 90s, Montreal, Boston every year. Or before that, Montreal, Quebec. Okay, that was fun. But at the same time, you sort of run out of steam. It's like, okay, for the 4th year in a row, the Montreal Canadiens will be facing the Boston Bruins in the first round.
Yeah. Anyways, we kind of digressed a little bit, but bringing it back to our topic, Snake.
Yeah.
We take a look at the current teams that, are building really strong young cores.
Yeah.
And assuming now that they are going to trust the process and stick to the plan moving forward. I mean, let's follow along the Hockey News footsteps. Let's dip our toes in the water.
That's
of those teams, Snake.
Which
one will win the cup first?
Okay, we have 5 teams, I think, on our list, don't we?
Yes, correct.
Hawks.
Okay, so let me name them. Okay, it's the Montreal Canadiens,
Yeah.
Chicago Blackhawks, San Jose Sharks, the Anaheim Ducks, and the Utah Mammoth.
Yeah.
Okay, those are the 5. Which one of those 5 will win the cup first?
Well, it certainly won't happen this year or next year. That's for sure.
No.
But maybe starting in 2028, maybe we could start seeing a pattern. One of the patterns, actually, is that the Habs are the only team in the East.
That's what I was going to say.
So I think in terms of getting to the finals, I think the path to the finals for the Montreal Canadiens, I wouldn't say is easier, but it's just they have less competition in their age group.
Exactly.
Okay, you still have to go through the Lightning, which is a pretty good team, and Carolina and Washington. I do understand that it's not an easy path in any way, shape, or form. But in terms of young teams, they are the ones who have the coast is clear in terms of young teams in the East. Now, as to win the cup, I think right now, as we speak, Anaheim is ahead of those 4 teams. The question is, will they maintain their advantage? Look, it's the best player of them all, of all the 5 teams, is Macklin Celebrini, I would say.
Correct.
He is a guy who can carry a team. What I'm concerned about the Sharks is they don't have a young stud on defense in terms of offensive defensemen. There's no Lane Hudson.
Yeah.
There's no Lev Shunov. There's no, although I don't think Lev Shunov is necessarily a stud defensively, but you know what I mean. He could be a number 1 defenseman. They don't have a Jackson Lacombe. Or they don't have the
Dickinson
depth.
is fine, right? Sam Dickinson
He's
is going to be a good number 2.
Yeah. But there's no number 1, and there's no 3, 4, 5, 6. Anaheim has lots of Anaheim has depth on defense. Yeah. Canadians have depth on defense. Chicago has depth on defense, and that's what bothers me. Utah, it's a nicely built team. They have players coming up, like Alec Desnoyers. Daniel Butt was called up this week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was called up. He was very good in the American Hockey League, so that's another young player. But Simashev was sent back to the AHL. I don't think he was ready, and I don't think he's a stud either. Look, they all have question marks. In net, Askarov, sometimes he's very good, sometimes he's not. Fowler, I think, is a stud. Chicago, I think Spencer Knight is a stud, or at least he's excellent. Anaheim, Dustil is fine. It's going to be a good goalie. I could see him win a cup, let's say. Utah, Vemelka, I think is okay. So I don't think in net there's a problem. Look, I'm just thinking out loud because it's very, very hard. And there's going to be moves made, obviously, and more players drafted. I mean, what if the Sharks win the lottery, and they get, I don't know, a Keaton Verhoff? Then they have their number 1 defenseman.
There you go.
Do you have a pick as who is going to win first if one of those 5s win?
Listen, I could just throw out a name really at this point. That's why I asked you. Like, it's a fun exercise, but it's impossible to do.
I'm going to go with the Ducks.
Yeah, it's a good pick. I mean, they've got a good blend of youth and experience, progressing the right way. But for the reason that you gave earlier, got to go with the Habs.
Oh, to win.
Yeah.
Okay, because the coast is clear and there's only 1 team to face in the West. They don't have to beat all of Utah, Chicago, Ducks, and Sharks. To
add on to that, right? That team coming out of the West is going to be banged up because they're going to be playing some big teams, right? Now, obviously, there's some big clubs in the East as well. Yeah. Ottawa's progressing nicely. I think the Red Wings, if they get Quinn Hughes, hello. I mean, they got something there. They need a few more forwards, but they got something. The good goalies coming up. There's some teams in the East that can prove to be a challenge, but just throwing out a name here. I'll say
I thought the Habs could make the Stanley Cup Finals in 2028. I'm not saying they're going to win. I'm saying they could make the finals in 2028. So not this season, not next season, but the one after. You have to give time for young players to reach their peak, and also for the older guys to still be in their prime. So I think the Habs could reach the Stanley Cup Finals by 2028. As for the Cup, I'll go with Anaheim of all the teams.
Yeah.
Now, what's interesting is that, and I have a good memory about all these predictions because I love that stuff. It's going to be interesting to see in 2029 and 2030. Let's give it 4 or 5 years. If there's going to be someone who wins the Cup that today we have no idea.
Most likely
be Cup winners.
Most likely.
I mean, the Florida Panthers won in 2024 and 25. Not sure in 2019, 2020, a lot of teams saw them as a possible back-to-back champion down the road. Of course, they had Barkov, they had Huberdeau at the time, which turned into Tkachuk. They had Aaron Ekblad, but Bobrovsky. But I don't think anyone in 2020 would have said, okay, by the mid-2020s, the Panthers will have 2 Stanley Cups. Because they were neither a very young team, up-and-coming team. They were not old either. The GM at the time was not very good. But Bill Zito changed everything with the moves that he made. So in 2029 or 2030, there could be a team right now that we don't expect to win. Because we're just focusing on the process teams. Because that's what we like. But there could be other champions besides the 5 teams that we mentioned.
Mm-hmm. No doubt about it. Well, we want to hear from you watching as well.
Yeah.
Let us know in the comments. Yeah. Answer my question. Who of those 5 teams that we named will win the Stanley Cup first? I think it's a great exercise, and we want to hear your thoughts and your reasoning as well. Give us a detailed explanation.
Do we give a deadline, Shane? Because what if the first one wins in 2042?
Then, hey, listen, it's valid. The question is who wins first, right? So,
what if the Habs win in 2042 and
none of the players on the team right now are still there.
Basically, there's only, I don't know, Zarovsky left, and he's on the third line because he's at the tail end of his career.
Who knows? That's what's fun about predicting the future. So, that's cool. Snake, let's kind of go back to Monday's show a little bit because we talked about Michael Hage in depth, right? You went to go see him play Harvard, 2 games there, 6 points in 2 games, but you brought up a good analysis of his game, right? Talented, but there are a few concerns. Now, on Thursdays, we usually take a look at the broader picture, the upcoming draft prospects or the top drafted prospects as well. And Michigan has quite a few of those. So we talked a little bit about Will Horkoff. I know you're a fan of his. Are there any other players other than Michael Hage who caught your attention?
I'm going to discuss a few players because most of them were drafted, obviously, last year or the year before. And fans might be interested for their fantasy leagues.
Yeah. Because
probably some of these guys happen to be on their team or at least their reserve team. So I'm going to start in net with Jack Ivankovic. The guy played every game this season. And I think he's very talented. You can tell, even if someone who doesn't know that he was drafted in the second round went to the game and with a basic knowledge of hockey could see that Ivankovic is a talented goalie. Mm-hmm. So he was drafted by the Preds, and I know they have Saros right now, but goalies it's a 4 or 5 year down the road thing. They did it with Saros and Pecorini at the time. And they traded Askarov because they were confident that Saros was going to do the job for many years. I think Ivankovic is the next one, if not traded. So I think that's a very, very interesting long-term prospect for the NHL. Mm-hmm. Now, on defense, I have to say there's not as many prospects, NHL prospects, as a forward. There's one guy I want to talk about. He's Manon Réaume's son.
Dakota
Réaume Mullen. Dakota Réaume Mullen last year, early in during the season, was seen as a late first or second-round pick by the NHL. Surprisingly, he didn't get drafted. And that's surprising because, look, they draft 210 players. I mean, the guy didn't have like a fantastic season by any means, but he was worthy of being drafted. I think he will be drafted this year. He might play for the U.S. team at the junior championship. Now, he has 13 points in 18 games, but although I don't see him as an offensive defenseman. So if he carves himself a niche in the NHL, it'll be probably as a more like a defensive defenseman. I think he has a chance of playing in the NHL. We shall see. Now, on offense, we've talked about Michael Hage. He's their best player. Let's talk about Will Horkoff. Will Horkoff was drafted 24th by the Pittsburgh Penguins. And there were concerns about him last year because what happened is Horkoff was he was playing for the U.S. development program team. And he was okay, but he wasn't great. But then all of a sudden, in the middle of the season, he decides to go to Michigan at age 17. And it's hard. It's hard to play college hockey at age 17. We see it with Gavin McKenna. So he had some good moments, but there are moments where he was totally lost on the ice, totally lost. And so it was a double-edged sword. He challenged himself to play against higher level competition, but it probably hurt his draft stock. And now he's back on the radar. He has 18 goals. 18 goals in 18 games. Now, let me tell you about this guy. He's a goal scorer, that's for sure. That's an understatement. I think he will be a goal scorer in the NHL. Don't know how many. So fantasy league owners, I don't know. I can't predict these things. But I think he is a natural goal scorer. But he will also need, he's 6'5", by the way. Although his size, he's a big presence on the ice, but he doesn't use his size like, some other 6'5" guys. Maybe he will one day, but you can't miss him on the ice. He's much taller than everybody else. You can't miss him on the ice. But this is a guy who will need a good centerman with him. Will it be Ben Kindle in Pittsburgh at some point? When Crosby and Malkin are gone, it's possible. Because right now, Michael Hage helps him a lot. Okay? So I don't know if Horkoff would have 18 goals with a guy who's not as good as Michael Hage. In overtime, he scored the winning goal on Saturday, and he did well. He went to the net, but Hage's pass was perfect. So he's a good compliment, let's say. He helps Hage get points and look good with his assists, but he also gets a lot of help from Hage, offensively, because he doesn't drive a line, let's say. And that's probably why he was picked 24th, because otherwise a 6-foot guy who can score, if he drives a line, he's a top 5 pick. But nevertheless, a very good prospect. Now, 3 more guys I want to discuss quickly. Malcolm Spence, who was seen as a first-round pick for quite a bit last year when he was playing in Ontario, but he slipped, I think, to the second round.
New York Rangers.
New York Rangers. I didn't see much from him, unfortunately. So he was not really, I think he has 11 points this year, but I didn't see much of him on Saturday. And last year he had a good, but he's kind of a streaky guy. And I think that's why he fell in the draft. 2 more guys. Adam Valentini. Adam Valentini was highly criticized this summer because he committed to playing hockey in Kitchener in the Ontario Hockey League, but at the last minute, he decided to go to Michigan. And he's not a tall guy. He's skilled, but he's not a tall guy. And a lot of people said, okay, this is not a good decision. He's 17 years old. He's not physically strong enough. What the heck is he thinking? And you know what? He was good. So I don't know what's going to happen with him at the draft. I don't know if he's going to be a late first round or second round pick, but it really didn't hurt him to go play in Michigan because he gets power play time. Mm-hmm. And I think it's I think he's a very decent prospect. Last two guys I want to talk about. There's so many, Shane. I mean,
Michigan.
There's so many. Loaded. Yeah. TJ Hughes, number 13, 26 points, just like Michael Hage. Look, the guy is a million years old. Well, actually, he's 23. So that's he's getting old now for to be a prospect. But I think he will be a coveted free agent at the end of the season, only because it's a 1-year contract, $1 million. There's no risk. So I think a lot of teams will try and sign him at the end of the year. He's I think he's he lacks a certain quickness, I would say, to be a factor in the NHL. But you sign him, you send him to the American Hockey League, and you see. Last guy, a more obscure prospect who was chosen in the second round, Cole McKinney by the Sharks. Yeah, played for the U.S. team last year. This is a guy who he's the typical. I think this is what Mike Greer is trying to do. We're talking about building a team and not just a collection of players. Cole McKinney, 11 points this year. He has some offensive skills, but he will not be an offensive player in the NHL. But I think he could be a great bottom six player. He's a relentless worker. He has a little bit of skill. A little bit of skill. They're all skilled.
I know what you mean. Yeah, enough to be in the NHL.
If you have 11 points in the NCAA and then at the age of 18, you are skilled. But I'm talking NHL-wise. NHL-wise, he has a little bit of skill, and I think he could be a good building block for the Sharks in the future. So that's my review of the Michigan team, the number one team in the country. And we'll probably discuss them later during the Frozen Four if they get there. Yep. But I know some Habs fans wish that they were eliminated before, so Age can come to Montreal quickly, because otherwise there's only he can. I think he could only, if they win the championship, he can only play with the Habs in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, we're gonna keep tabs on Michigan, that's for sure. But they are a wagon. What a team. All right. Before we move along now, it's perfect opportunity to tell you all about our wonderful partners who make this show possible. I want to start off with Cheapest T-shirts. If you're looking for the cheapest prices on wholesale apparel in Canada, you will find them at cheapesttshirts.ca. They are proudly Canadian and trusted by thousands of customers from coast to coast. They deliver unbeatable value every day. You'll always get the cheapest prices, plus same-day shipping and even next-day delivery, so your order arrives fast. You can enjoy free shipping on larger orders and a simple, easy-to-use website that makes online ordering a breeze. Get the cheapest deals in Canada today at cheapesttshirts.ca. And, of course, big thank you to our partners at Betway. Don't select the bus with Betway and get a deposit matchup bonus up to $300 on your first deposit. You can scan the QR code on the screen or click on the link in the details section to create an account and redeem your welcome offer. The offer is only available for new customers. Terms and conditions apply. The offer is not available in Ontario, and you must be 18 years or older. Please play responsibly. Okay, time for my favorite segment of the week. It is Snake's Hot Take. All right, let us hear it, Snake. I have no idea what this one is. You didn't tell me anything about it beforehand, so you're going to get my real, genuine reaction to this one.
Well, it's not a Montreal Canadiens hot take. You know, I'm not talking about Kapanen or Fowler or anything spectacular like that. But it's about the Sharks, so it's it's a rebuilding team, and I like Mike Greer, what he's been doing, but there's one jewel that I think he's not handling very well so far. It's Michael Misa. Very often, 18-year-old players, teams don't really know what to do with them because they're not ready for the NHL, but they feel that if they go back to junior, they're going to waste their time.
Yeah.
And what they do, sometimes they will give them a few games like Brady Martin, then send them back. Jet Luchenko, same thing with the Flyers last year when he was 18. Radim Murtka was sent to the AHL at the beginning of the year. Then he went back to the WHL. So that's okay. You see what happens in October, then you can make a decision. Other guys like Shane Wright 3 years ago and Michael Misa this year, they play yo-yo with these guys and they throw them all over the place.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure it's a good thing. Michael Misa started out the season with the Sharks.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't play in every game. He played very sporadically, like 10, 11 minutes a night. Played 7 games, 3 points, 1 goal, 2 assists. And you're kind of thinking, it's the chicken and the egg. Is he not playing because he's not ready? Or is he not playing simply because they're too careful with him? Whereas Macklin Celebrini, last year, they threw him to the wolves. But Misa is not Celebrini. But I don't like what they're doing because then he was injured. Now they're sending him to the AHL. We know the pattern. They're sending him to the AHL for a conditioning stint so he can play a few games with the Barracuda. Okay. But then they're probably going to send him to junior hockey, the Canadian junior team. That will be something to discuss next year because we're just a few days ahead of the selection. And then, and what do they do in January? Do they send him back to Saginaw? Or does he get traded in the Ontario League to a contender so he can play in the Memorial Cup? I don't like it when players go from one caliber of play to the other many times during the year. I'm not saying it screws them up forever, but this is not the type of... It's like teams don't know what to do with the player.
Mm-hmm.
And I like it when a team sticks to a plan with a player, whether you keep him or you don't, but don't have him play in all kinds of situations going up and down. Like you want to keep him, have him play 70 games or 60 games, like the Ducks did with Leo Carlson in his draft year.
Management.
But he was around the team. Yeah, load management, he was around the team. Celebrini played every game, but Celebrini is another animal. Look, in the past, you had teams like the Sabres. They kept Zach Benson at the age of 18. He wasn't bad. He got 30 points, but he never really progressed. Mm-hmm. So is it because of the team? Is it because he was thrown to the wolves too early? I don't know. Cole Sillinger, you remember? He went from the USHL to the NHL at age 18. He had a good rookie season. Ever since then, But obviously these guys, I don't think are the same type of player as Misa. But I saw with some teams, we're talking about Shane Wright. Other teams like the Ducks with Roger McQueen and Calgary with Cole Reshny, they said, okay, we don't necessarily want you to go back to the junior league because I think it's kind of a waste of time. We can't send you to the AHL because of the rule. You can't send an AHL, an 18-year-old guy from the CHL to the AHL. Hey, NCAA, man. And Cole Reshny, I saw him play for North Dakota live a few weeks ago. He's doing well.
Mm-hmm.
He's doing well. I think he's over a point per game, and he's pretty good. He's one of their best players. So I think this is great for his development. Now, Michael Misa, everyone talked over the summer. Could he go to the NCAA? Could he go with Gavin McKenna at Penn State or Michigan State with Lindstrom, whatever? Every team was on the board. Well, you know what? If the Sharks didn't want to send it back to junior hockey, and we're not pretty sure that he could play a good, 60 to 70 games, I don't know, 12, 13, 14 minutes a night, they should have just sent him to the NCAA.
Yeah.
And because I understand Misa played in the OHL at the age of 15. So basically, He had 3 seasons of junior hockey, the same way a 16-year-old guy has 3 seasons of junior hockey when he turns 19. So he was 1 year ahead of everybody. Now, I watched him play with the Sharks. Is he ready? I don't know. I think, Will Smith had a very, very bad first half last year. They were talking about sending him to the Barracuda. They didn't. And the second half, he exploded. Because what they did with Will Smith, they stuck to it. Okay, you're 19, you're staying with us, and let's see what happens. And so I'm surprised the way Greer is handling Misa, because it's like a hot potato right now that he's handling. Let's see if he goes to the junior team. Let's see what he does with the Barracuda this weekend. I'm not saying his career is wasted. Far from that. I just don't like the way they're handling the situation, especially considering the guy is a number 2 overall pick.
That's fair. That's fair. He's a fun player to watch. And like you say, Snake, hopefully they figure it out, because he's a big part of their future as well. Like you need him to pan out if they want to take the next step. So that's a good one. That's a good point you make there. I completely agree. All right. We got some mailbag questions to get to. So why don't we dive into that? Okay. First question comes from LF4591. Great to hear. Excellent report on my 2 favorite fantasy prospects, Quentin Musty and Trevor Connolly. Of course, 2 of 6 favorites. Can we have the same for Cooper Simpson and Victor Eklund? Please, Mr. Userpent.
Well, thank you, Mr. LF4591. I can see that you're a follower here, because Musty and Colley are one of my favorite prospects of the last couple of drafts. Cooper Simpson also was my wild card, was my sleeper of the draft with Zarovsky. He was picked in the 3rd round by Boston. At some point I was thinking, are the Habs going to get him?
Yeah.
Because they were picking they had a few picks before they chose Papanekis. And he's going to go to Boston. Cooper Simpson right now in the USHL is one of the top players at age 18. Obviously, the USHL is not as strong as it was last year. It's not the CHL either, but I think he's doing very well. And he's going to North Dakota next year. So will he be playing with Cole Reshney? Probably. Will Keenan Verhoff still be there? I doubt it. But I think it's a good career move on his part. And I think within 3 years, he'll be a Boston Bruin and do very well as probably a middle of the lineup player. Mm-hmm. As for
Victor Eklund.
I liked Eklund. I was surprised that he dropped to 16 to the Islanders. So obviously it makes the Noah Dobson trade more palatable for Islanders fans who like Dobson, because sometimes when you get a number 16 pick, it's borderline. You can get a good player at 16, but chances are, if you look at the history of number 16 picks, it's really 50-50. So odds are, that you might get a guy who will be, very average or won't play. But I think in the case of Eklund, I think he's perfect for the Islanders, because they lack young studs on offense. They're not loaded with young studs. They're an older team. Mm-hmm. Who knows what's going to happen with Cole Eiserman? He's a pure goal scorer, but the rest of his game is kind of so-so. They got Prokhorov in the 2nd round. Not as good as Zarovsky, obviously, in the KHL this year.
Ritchie's all right, though. Cal Ritchie.
Cal Ritchie's doing well. So you see, they're building. They're building for the first time in years. The Islanders, I think, are building an interesting pipeline. And Matthew Schaefer will everyone look better than they actually are. Yeah. He's the next Cale Makar. I think even better than Makar, which is something. And the fact that Makar is my favorite defenseman of probably the last 30 years. And but I think Schaefer has passed him now in my book. And in terms of the future, obviously now Makar is still number 1. And so Victor Eklund, yes, yes, sir. If you have him in your fantasy pool, I think you can expect probably maybe a 60-point player. I think he's going to be better than his brother. His brother is very good, William,
Yeah.
but I think Victor is going to be a little bit better than his brother. So maybe a 60-point player. Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
He would have been a good pick for the Habs. Let's say they had kept the picks and they take Eklund and Zarovsky. It would have been great. But, they got a defenseman. Defensemen have more value than wingers. So, and they got Zarovsky anyway. So the Dobson trade turned out fine for the Habs.
Absolutely. All right. Great question. Let's move on to the next one. This one comes from TNT Shark. Says a few podcasts ago, you were talking about value prospect grade ABC. In terms of trades, which ones are untouchable and whatnot. That was a fun show. I really enjoyed that one. But the question here is the big one: would you trade Lane Hutson 1-for-1 for Leo Carlsson if he becomes available? Now, the second question, follow up to that, is: do you prefer Cutter Gauthier or Leo Carlsson? Now, let's paint the scenario here, because I think Leo Carlsson is not going to become available. Let's be honest here.
No.
But
and I don't think Lane Hutson will become available either.
No.
So we're just speculating about the value of a player, let's say.
Correct.
I'm not on speculation, but this one I thought was fun.
Yeah, exactly. Pat Verbeek calls you. You're Kent Hughes. He says, hey, I'm willing to give you Leo Carlsson for Lane Hutson. What do you say?
Oh, right away.
Right.
I mean, Carlsson is a unicorn. A big centerman who's going to be a top scorer in the NHL, and he already is at his age. I think I do not hesitate for 1 second. And like you say, we always say you have to give something to get something. You're not going to get Carlsson for 2 first-round picks.
No. And then
what about you, Shane? What would you do?
Okay, well, first of all, this would never happen, right?
It's not going to happen.
This is a video game trade.
Yeah, we're just having fun.
For what Carlsson brings, the profile of the player and the potential, it's kind of hard to say no. As much as I love Lane Hutson, I am probably the VP of the fan club. Tony being the president, right? Like I adore Lane Hutson. I think he is a phenomenal hockey player, so much better than he gets credit for. But yeah, it's kind of hard to say no to that. Like, Leo Carlsson's special, man. He's special.
Yeah.
So the follow up to that now, because I know you love Cutter Gauthier, so I'm glad that this person asked 2 questions.
Yeah, that was a fun question. Really fun. Yeah.
Cutter Gauthier or Leo Carlsson?
I go with Carlsson, obviously because he's a centerman, also because he's a better player. But Cutter Gauthier will become, if he's not already, one of the top power wingers in the league.
That's fair.
Okay. This is a fantastic duo. This is a Stanley Cup winning duo, Carlsson and Gauthier.
And then you add on Beckett Seneca, you add on Roger McQueen, you add on Mason McTavish. Listen, the Ducks. Whew, yeah.
I have concerns about Roger McQueen right now. He was injured last year. He's playing for Providence, which doesn't really help. Yeah, I want to see more of him, before I can put him in the same category as the guys you just mentioned. But obviously, it's another 6'5" center.
Yep.
Pat Verbeek likes size.
Yeah.
And I don't blame him. I mean, size helps you win in the playoffs, obviously. But talent and size is probably the best combo. Leo Carlsson has it. I mean, he's fantastic. For older listeners, I always thought he was a better version of Matt Sundin. So I think he could become probably one of the best Swedish forwards in the history of the league. Peter Forsberg, I think, being number 1 right now.
Yeah, that's fair.
Maybe I'm forgetting someone, but I think Peter Forsberg is top. So that's my answer to the question. So if you have a fantasy league or something, Carlsson or Gauthier, take Carlsson.
Well, I am very happy that I have both. Doing all right. I'm doing all right, Snake.
Who are these
Next
guys doing this fantasy league with you? Who are these?
So I actually have 4 leagues. I have 4 leagues. So I have Carlson in one. I have Cutter in another. So I have them in different leagues. I have,
okay.
You know,
Okay, not on the same team.
listen,
Okay.
I'm first in all of them. Okay, next question.
Yeah.
This one coming from Justin asking, what was Snake's draft year rating of Matthew Nyes? Great question.
Yeah.
Has he exceeded Snake's expectations? I assume yes. Obviously,
Oh,
Matthew
yes.
Nyes was selected in
Big
the second
time.
round.
Big
What did you think
time.
of him?
I also had him in the second round. Big
Okay.
time. And you know, when we do a redraft of 2021, this guy is probably going to be in the top 10. So what did I think of this guy? He played for the Tri-City in the USHL.
Mhm.
He was a point per game player and a big, big guy. I tell you what made me put him in the second round, because I always have an explanation. It's not an excuse. It's always an explanation, as you know me, because I failed. I failed by putting him in the second round. I failed. And but the reason why I put him in the second round is because being a late birthday, he's born in October. His draft year, he was playing his draft year at age 18. So obviously he should have been more dominant.
Mm.
And he kind of regressed vis-a-vis his 17-year-old season, the draft -1 season.
Okay.
So probably had he been eligible in 2020, I would have ranked him maybe middle to late first round. But I dropped him to the second round, probably around, I don't know, first between 32 and 42, something like that. And then he went to the University of Minnesota. He was pretty good. And with the Leafs for the last couple of years, he's one of the only bright spots in terms of young players that they have. He's one of the only bright spots. And had the Leafs gotten players like him in 2016, 2017, 2018, it would have really, really helped the Stars. The Matthews and Marner and etc. So he's really exceeded my expectations. I think all 31 other teams would like to have Matthew Nyes on my team, on their team, and it was. Look, I misread him. You know, sometimes when a player regresses in its draft year, it could just be not a bad season, but it could just be like that progression is not always linear, and then the guy bounces back. But there's a lot of cases like Matthew Nyes who kind of regress in their draft year, and then they never go back to what they were. So again, I play the odds, and I'm biased towards late birthdays, unfortunately, and it's always come back to bite me sometimes. I like guys who are like much, who are the younger in their class, like Matthew Schaefer, born early September, because you see more runway for them to improve. Whereas a guy who's born in October, he plays his draft year at age 18, there's not much runway to improve as much as a guy who's born a year earlier. But, you know, that's part of the draft process and evaluation. And that, I would say, that's probably my biggest weakness when I evaluate players. I have a very, very hard time with late birdies. So if I were working for an NHL team, I would tell my chief scout, please don't ask my opinion about late birdies because I'm not gonna be very useful for your scouting team. Let me scout the regular guys, you know, born in May, June, July, August, September, the 17-year-olds. Look, we all have our weaknesses, and I think that's my biggest when I scout players.
Listen, he also did fall to the second round, so you weren't alone.
But to me, that's not an excuse. That's not an excuse. That's not an excuse. When I say Zarovsky, you know, was on my list at number 17, well, I'm proud of it. So, and I don't care if he was drafted in the second round because I saw it as a first rounder. So Matthew Nyes, I have to be fair. I didn't see him as a first rounder. I don't care if he was picked in the second round. I failed.
Great accountability on your part.
Oh, yeah.
Very humble, Snake. But you're still pretty damn good at what you do. Thank you to Justin for the question. And folks, be like these three viewers, okay? And send in your questions. We want to hear from you. Interact in the chat. You know what? We have a great comment section, very knowledgeable viewers on this show. So we love you guys, appreciate you tremendously. We will be back on Monday, possibly in the studio. That could be fun. That could be fun. We're going to try to work that out, and we're going to talk some Habs, of course, Habs prospects, whatever you want us to talk about. Give us suggestions as well in the chat. Snake, anything else to add before we?
Well, I think on Monday we could start going through Habs prospects who will be probably on World Junior rosters.
Yeah,
because some teams have announced their training camp rosters, or so I think we could start. There's going to be a few prospects. Not all of them are going to be great, but they will have prospects. So I think that's something we could. That's one of the things we could talk about in Habs land on Monday.
Perfect. I look forward to it. So for Simone the Snake Boisvert, I'm producer Shane. Thank you to Juliana back at Master Control. Crushed it as always. And thank you all for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe, turn on the notification bell, hit the hype button, and the big thumbs up. This was another edition of the Sick Podcast. Trust the process. We'll see you Monday.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast, Trust the Process on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.